guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is Saturday, May the 19th, and I will try to talk a little bit louder today because I did get some comments that a few of y'all weren't able to hear me. Let me make sure that I do have the volume turned up while I'm recording. Yes, I believe I do. So I just hope that you can hear me now. I do have problems with the strength of my voice. But anyway, I'm going to pick up with another story today. And okay, so I left off Wednesday or Thursday, whatever day it was that I did the last video of John managing the TG&Y store in Bay St. Louis, and me finding out that he was having a drinking problem, which was something that either I didn't notice it or he was pretty good at hiding it from me. But I knew that he drank Budweiser. He had to have his Budweiser every night. And, you know, he would sit around the house, come home from work, and drink usually about, you know, 5 or sometimes a 6-pack of the Budweiser. And then sometimes he wouldn't come home after work. He would go to the bar. And, you know, we had only been married a couple of years, so it really was not that much of a problem until he stopped not showing up at, you know, to pick Jason up from the daycare. So anyway, we were living in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, in the house on DeMont Lazon Avenue, and Jason was staying in the daycare across the street, owned by my good friend Dale and her husband Doug. And so John was the manager of the TG&Y in Bay St. Louis. Well, the president of TG&Y wanted to meet John. He was going to fly into New Orleans, and he had called to take us out to dinner. So he was staying in a hotel in New Orleans, and he wanted us to meet him at the Commander's Palace, which is a very exquisite restaurant. It was opened in the late 1800s, and it has been in New Orleans in the Garden District all these years. And so we were so excited to be able to go there and to meet the president of TG&Y and to have dinner at this exquisite restaurant. So before we left Freeport, Texas, John had traded in the old Mercury, and he had bought a 1968 Volkswagen Squareback. So we had this little white station wagon. So we got a babysitter for Jason, and John and I drove into New Orleans that evening, and we met the president of the TG&Y at Commander's Palace. Of course, it's very fancy in there. They have the white linen tablecloths, and all the silver, and all the fine dining and everything. And so I had gotten a glass of wine, and we were sitting there talking and all. And of course, I was nervous, so I was using my hands a lot to talk, and here I go and knock over the glass of wine. And it just went all over, you know, the linen tablecloth and everything. I was so embarrassed. And that's all I remember about that dinner. I don't remember what I ordered or anything else about it. All I remember was how embarrassed I was that I spilled that glass of wine in front of the president of the TG&Y. So we finished the dinner, and then John and I got in a little Volkswagen Squareback to drive home. And Bay St. Louis is probably about an hour's drive north of New Orleans. So when we were coming down the interstate, I-59, I believe, all of a sudden the back wheel comes off the car. I mean, the hub, the wheel, everything came off. And we just saw these sparks flying out of, you know, from the back of the car, and it was on the back passenger side. Of course, I started screaming, and John did a very good job. You know, he held on to the steering wheel, and he kept that car from flipping over. And so we pulled off the road, and of course, back then there were no telephones or anything, and so we just kind of sat there, and when we finally digested what had happened and got over the shock, then we were trying to figure out, you know, how are we going to get home? So finally, someone pulled over and offered to take us home. And it was these two young guys. And they were real goofy. And I was scared, really, to get in the car with them. But, you know, we were desperate. We had to get home some way or another. So the one that was driving, he seemed okay, but the passenger guy, they were probably about 17 or 18. He was just talking and rambling and saying all kinds of crazy stuff. So I whispered in John's ear, I said, let's have them drop us off, not at the house, because I did not want these two characters to know where we lived. So when we did get to Bay St. Louis, we just, pointed out a house a few houses down from where we actually lived, and that's where they dropped us off. And so that was just quite an ordeal. And I do have a couple of pictures for y'all. Now, when we were living in the house on de Montlezon, Jason was about 10 months old, and it was his first Christmas. And here's a picture of him. He was pulling the skirt off the Christmas tree right here. And here's a picture of him with some of his little toys and everything. And here I am on the floor playing with Jason. He loved to line things up. I'm sure y'all will recognize some of these toys from being from Tupperware. There I am with my long, straight brown hair. And I just thought this was a cute picture. Jason loved to suck his thumb, and he had a security blanket. And that particular day, he had left his security blanket in the playpen, but he managed to reach in there with his little fingertips and get it out. And then this is a picture of the inside of the TG&Y there. And that's Santa Claus, who was actually the assistant manager of the store. And he's holding Jason there in his lap. But anyway, we just continued, to live our lives there in Bay St. Louis and make the best of everything. I'm going to end it here, but I want to invite y'all back tomorrow. I'm going to demonstrate the mini album that my friend Rosa sent me. She lives on the West Coast, and she made this mini album by hand and mailed it to me. So I'm going to be so happy to show that to y'all tomorrow. So please hit that like button. And if you're just passing through here, I would love to have you subscribe. And I just want to thank you for all of your comments. And I just love you guys so much. And y'all just keep on coming back. Bye.